Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I can't believe I'm back with part 2 of my most anticipated horror and thriller books for 2021. I always do a follow-up video, but usually it's closer to mid-year. But at this point, pretty much all the major releases for the year have been announced, so I wanted to do an updated list talking about even more books I'm excited for. And I'm not going to include any repeats here, so if you're looking for a title and I didn't include it, it's probably because it's in my first video, which I will have linked down below and in the cards. Otherwise, these are all books I'm really excited for, and as usual, these dates are subject to change. They are based off of North American dates, and I'm just really excited for all these books. It's certainly not an exhaustive list of every single horror and thriller book that is coming out, but the books that I am personally interested in and the books that I plan on trying to review for you all. All that being said, let's get started. Now, starting in July, we have The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig, which follows a couple that are returning to their hometown, which has some bad memories because they grew up in abusive families. Now they are returning with their young son, and their son has possibly found a new playmate. However, this other child he has befriended possibly has some magical abilities, which is good because there is a creature near the town that has awoken and is coming for them, and hopefully this boy's paranormal abilities will help to save them. I have never read Chuck Wendig before, and I don't know if this is a good place to start. I'm hoping that this book is a little bit shorter than some of his other ones, and the premise sounds good. I do enjoy young kids with potential supernatural abilities, and yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. I'll absolutely give this one a try. Next, we have The Turnout by Megan Abbott, which follows two sisters that run a ballet studio together. They are currently preparing for a performance of The Nutcracker, but there is a terrible accident, and then of course, there is suspicion thrown around whether or not someone caused this, and I understand that this is a book that deals with sexuality and femininity and power and family ties, and I'm primarily interested in this one because, first off, I really like ballet or dance stories. I'm hoping it's going to give me vibes of that YA book, Tiny Pretty Things, and also I'm a huge fan of Megan Abbott's other book, Dare Me, which was about cheerleading, but the premise sounds pretty similar, and I'm definitely hoping that she's going to go back to her roots with this one. And yeah, I'm very interested to check this one out because I love Megan Abbott's prose. She is just one of those writers who writes really fierce, cutting female characters, and I'm hoping she's going to bring it again in this one. Next, we have Come With Me by Ronald Malfi, and this is a story of a man who falls into grief when his wife is killed. In trying to come to terms with what happened, he goes through her belongings and ends up finding a receipt for a motel that she stayed at across the country. And this leads him on a bit of a road trip to find out what his wife was actually up to and who she was. And the biggest reason I want to read this one is because of the author. I really enjoy Ronald Malfi. I've said so many times that I consider him to be a really good storyteller. The premise of this sounds fantastic. I expect it to be a very emotional story and probably very fast-paced because he does really do a great job of keeping me turning the pages. So very eager for this one. I was really excited when I saw it announced online. Next, we have a thriller called For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing, and this follows a teacher at a prestigious boarding school who believes that they are this fantastic teacher. They win all the awards. They are beloved by all of their students and colleagues. However, his wife has not been seen recently, and there is a parent who was a bit overzealous that appears to be murdered, and it's starting to look a little bit suspicious. The students start to investigate him, but he's not concerned about this. The only thing he cares about is being the best teacher and getting the most out of his students. I am really excited for this synopsis because it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm actually married to a teacher, so I think that it's going to be especially funny for me. I have read the author's previous book, My Lovely Wife, and I definitely enjoyed it, so I know I like the storytelling from this author. And yeah, that synopsis just sounds so much fun. I love reading from a sociopathic character, and the fact that it's a teacher is just bonus. Now, moving on to August, we have Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which follows a young woman in the 1970s living in Mexico. Her name is Maite, and she is obsessed with romance novels and really lives within those stories. However, she is a bit jealous of her neighbor who appears appears to be living the life that Maite wishes she was, but one day her neighbor goes missing and she has to go and find out what happened to her. She ends up teaming up with a thug named Elvis, and there's possibly a romance going on there, and they have to find out what's going on. It sounds like the story involves politics and Russian spies and all sorts of secrets. And I, of course, am excited for this one because of my love for Mexican Gothic, although the author is very clear that this one is not horror. Instead, it's more of a noir thriller, and I'm okay with that too because I do, again, read both genres, and this one definitely sounds like it's going to bring a lot of the things I've loved about her previous books back. And so I'm very eager to see how this all plays out. I'm not sure, honestly, if I'm excited for the fact that there's going to be more romance, but it seems to be something that she just consistently puts in her books, so I guess I can forgive her for that. Next, we have When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, which follows a young woman who has years ago left her segregated southern town and is reluctantly now coming back for the wedding of one of her old childhood friends. This place used to be a plantation but has now been converted into a popular vacation spot. However, this old plantation possibly has ghosts that are seeking revenge for the terrible atrocities of the past. I am very excited for this one. I've not read this author before. This might be a debut, but I think it's going to bring some great diversity to the genre, really blending in politics and racial prejudice with, of course, a really good vengeful ghost story. And I'm just excited for where this is going to go. I've had a lot of good luck reading authors of color in the horror genre, just finding their stories to be fresh and topical right now. So I'm eager to get my hands on this one and definitely hoping it'll be a new favorite of the year. Next, we have Red X by David Demchuk, which follows a group of young gay men living in Toronto, Canada, who appear to be going missing. The police, of course, are not overly concerned due to racial and political prejudice, but their friends and family are concerned and try to look for them, try to find out what's happening. Is there a serial killer on the loose? And they realize that this is not just a recent or current problem, but something that has been happening for much longer. I am very excited for this one for a few reasons. I really love queer horror, first of all, and this is Own Voices. I have read David Demchuk before and have been really impressed by his prose and storytelling. And this one just sounds like a really good premise, and it's actually, of course, based off of real events. The fact is that people of marginalized groups are more often targeted for these sorts of crimes, and when they disappear, they don't always get the attention from the media and the police they should. And this book, I understand, really draws from the author's own experiences, and I think it's going to be super topical, super powerful, and I'm incredibly excited. I would definitely love to review it for all of you. Next, we have Dagger Hill by Devon Taylor, which is the only young adult book on this list. This is a horror story that is compared to Stranger Things, one of my favorite TV shows. It's set in the summer of 1989 and follows a group of 4 best friends that are getting together one last time before they all move off to different colleges around the country. However, something goes terribly wrong. There is a plane crash which actually falls right on their hangout, and they are struck in the midst of this all. Afterwards, several of the boys start to have visions that they can't explain, and there's also a girl that went missing, and someone believes that they saw her getting taken off into the woods. This is a book I am very excited for. I am cautious to put young adult books on my anticipated list, but this one does sound really good. I love a coming of age story, and I'm hoping that this one will definitely have some all ages appeal, and again, the Stranger Things vibes I am all here for, and yeah, I'm just excited to see what this book will hold. Next, we have My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, which is a horror novel following a woman named Jane who is living on an Indian reserve that is slowly being converted to a vacation resort. There is a lot of tension going on between the locals and the newcomers, as these celebrities move in and just change the culture, and soon enough people start to go missing and are possibly being killed off. And because Jane is a super big movie buff, she possibly believes that this is the result of a slasher serial killer, and the story goes from there. I have read his newest release, Only the Good Indians, which I have not yet reviewed yet on the channel, but is coming as well. I've read several of his other books, including The Living Mannequin, which was one of my favorite novellas from last year, and so I'm very eager to read more by him. And this one definitely reminds me of the premise of Alyssa Cole's novel from last year, but I think that this one is going to be much better done. I'm very excited for where this is going to go. And of course, Stephen Graham Jones does some fantastic social commentary while also making his books really fun and really scary. So I'm very excited to see what he has come up with, but the premise sounds fantastic. Moving on to September, we have Summer Suns by Lee Mandelo, which follows two best friends that move off to different schools. When one of them gets into a graduate program, something happens and it appears like one of the boys has committed suicide, and his best friend goes off to find out what happened. He ends up getting pulled into the college drama and is potentially haunted by the ghost of his best friend. This is the book that might technically be considered to be dark fantasy. It is from Tor.com, but I'm very excited for it because I've also seen it described as gothic horror, and specifically queer gothic horror, and I'm very excited to see how it will play out. I'm hoping it'll give me the creepy vibes I want, and it's an area of diversity that just personally speaks very closely to my heart, so I'm really excited to see if this book will deliver the story I'm hoping it will. Next we have Slewfoot by Brom, which follows a young woman who is moving to a Puritan colony, and she is betrothed to a man. However, soon after she gets there, he dies, and so she is left to her own devices, trying to keep her own independence in a time when women did not have very much autonomy. The story also involves a spirit named Slewfoot who is possibly malevolent, possibly not, and both of them get intertwined together as they are trying to survive in this colony. This, I'll be honest, is not the kind of story I would normally be drawn to because I'm just not a big fan of historical horror, especially historical horror set this far back in the past. I really don't read a lot of Puritan English fiction, but I have read Brom before. I've of course read Krampus and really enjoyed that one. I'm very excited to see him come back with a new story. I'm hoping this one is going to be illustrated with all his fantastic creepy drawings. And I, again, am very hopeful that this one will work for me despite the fact that it's not really a subgenre I normally read, but I'm definitely going to give it a try. I'm very hopeful that it will be just the good creepy story that I'm looking for. Moving on to October, aka Halloween season, we have Echo by Thomas Olde Heuvelt, which follows two young men that go off to go and explore the mountains of the Swiss Alps. However, there's a terrible accident and one of them wakes up from a coma to find out that the other one is dead. However, the survivor is possibly possessed, and the story goes from there. This is one that sounds like it has a really fun premise. It's kind of a survival story turning into a possession story, which are two of my favorite subgenres. But more than that, honestly, I'm excited for the author. I've been dying for another book from Thomas Olde Heuvelt because I loved Hex, and I've been waiting for a follow-up book to read in English. So very excited that finally another book is getting translated, and I can't wait to check this one out. Definitely going to be reading it the moment I get my hands on a copy. Next we have The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling, which is set in post-war England and follows a young woman who is trying to secure her place in society by marrying a young doctor. This seems like a great plan, however, on their wedding night, something goes wrong and he transforms from this confident man into this paranoid one who believes that she is a ghost or an apparition. She believes that the house they're living in, this manor, is responsible, and she begins to investigate and try to find out what is going on. This is described as gothic horror, which is not normally my subgenre, so normally I wouldn't include a book like this on my list, but the reason I'm including it is because of the author. She wrote one of my favorite sci-fi horror novels, The Luminous Dead, and so I'm eager to read more by her. I'll be honest, I wish she was writing a different story, but I'm here for whatever story she is going to write, so if this is the one, I will definitely check it out. Next we have Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw, which is set in an old Japanese manor that has been converted into a wedding venue. Little does the wedding party know that the place is built on top of the bones of a dead bride, and she of course is out to seek her revenge. I don't actually read a lot of ghost stories, but I really do like the premise of this one. Of course, if you don't know, I'm a huge fan of stories that are set in Japan. I'm fascinated by the culture, the people. It's a place I really do want to visit, and so I'm always eager to find fiction, especially horror, that ties into the place. And of course, this one just sounds really good. Again, a vengeful bride. I'm all here for it. I think it's going to be a really fun twist on a wedding story with a horrific ending, I am sure, and I'm so looking forward to this one. Definitely one of my most anticipated releases. And last, I want to briefly mention a short story collection, and that is Darkest Stars, edited by John Taff. And I don't normally include short story collections on this list, but this is done by Nightfire, which is a new Tor press that is all about horror and included a lot of the titles I mentioned above. And this is their anthology that's coming out in the fall. It's including a lot of authors I'm really excited for, including Carolyn Kepnes and Stephen Graham Jones. And while I don't read a lot of short stories, this is definitely an anthology I do not want to miss, so very much looking forward to it coming out. So that's it for this video. I would love to know down below which of the books you are most excited for, including any new releases that didn't necessarily make it onto my list. I would love to still hear about them if they're on your list. And if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I do read a lot of horror and thriller books, as well as adult science fiction and fantasy. And my goal with this list of books is to go through and read and review as many of them as possible, so that you know which ones are worth the hype, worth your money, and well, which ones are not. If that sounds good, definitely hope you stick around. You can still help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online, and hitting that notification bell so that you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.